This meeting is being recorded.
Mm, Okay. Hi, everybody. I am Terri Walsh, and I'm an assistive technology instructor here at Society for the Blind, and I am your host today. Welcome to our life seminar, life standing for living independent, free, and empowered. Um, Here in our seminars, we usually will, interview and speak with inspiring people, who have lost their sight and are living independently, free and empowered. And today, you are going to hear from your instructors. So we're going to tell a little bit of our sight loss story. And notice I say sight loss because, as we are all either losing or have lost our sight, we need to realize that we have not lost our vision. So that is important to remember. Um, I'm going to start us off today because a few of these instructors in the room have been my instructors. So I don't want to follow them. So I'm going to start us off and followed by Randy, who is also an assistive technology instructor, Sam, who is also an assistive technology instructor, and then last but not least, Diane, who is our living skills instructor, but also teaches assistive technology and Braille sometimes. Um, so then at the very end, we will open it up for questions. So if we can just mute and we'll give you a chance to ask questions at the end. Um, so I have been visually impaired my whole life. Always, wearing the Coke bottle glasses and contact lenses and the whole shadoo. And um, around in the 90s, I um, I got this surgery, RK surgery, which basically was pre-laser, and it didn't work for my left eye very well at all. But it corrected my right eye to 20/20 vision, which was just awesome. And it worked pretty well for years. And I raised a family. I was a physical therapist. Um, I played tennis in a league, and I was very active, soccer mom, and I had four kids, so we were always going somewhere, and pretty full life and crazy life. Um, Around 2008, I had this hotshot doctor just tell me that he could correct my left eye and improve my tennis game. And, I kind of fell for it and underwent a corneal transplant. And it failed. And I was just going to return back to work. And they were taking out the final stitches, and it got infected. And I ended up losing that eye completely. Um, but I still had my one perfect eye, right? Well, then about a couple months later, I had an autoimmune attack on my good eye, and they fought to save it, and they were able to save. I was still legally blind in that eye, but they were able to bring it back from what it really was, really completely white at one point. So I was, needless to say, quite devastated, and I threw myself a pity party, became a professional couch potato, and pretty much thought, my life is over. And in all of this pity, self-pity, I started watching YouTubes on how to be a blind person. And I actually watched a YouTube on how to use a cane. So I ordered myself a cane, and I went out with my honey, and we were out using my cane. and practicing, what I learned in my YouTube, feeling very proud of myself. And my honey says, "Hey, there's one of your stick sisters." And I'm like, "What?" And he says, "Yes, there's a woman right there using a white cane." And I was just amazed and like, wow, who would have thought? And so I went over and I talked to her, and she was really nice. And she told me about a not only a support group that was there in Auburn. I was living near Auburn at the time, but she also told me about Society for the Blind. So I decided to look in more, and I made an appointment for the Low Vision Center. I um, got in touch with DOR, and I made a plan, as most everybody here has done. So I was really excited, and I'll never forget the feeling of walking into Society for the Blind for the first time. Just with all these people using canes and their phone, voiceover going crazy, and it was just like, oh my gosh, I'm in the right place. This is amazing. Everybody was accomplished and doing their thing, and it's like, all right, this is good. So I got set up for classes, and I started taking O&M and living skills and assistive technology. And I set myself up to start massage school. And I had decided, since I was teaching physical therapy, that massage would be something that was very closely related, and that I could just go back in and just be more hands-on and have a specialty there. So that was kind of my plan. And then the dreaded, as everybody remembers, this was in 2019. And so everybody remembers the COVID shutdown in 2020. So I ended up having to switch all the classes to remote, which actually the staff pulled off wonderfully. Having no experience with remote classes before this point, it was awesome. And but obviously the massage school wasn't happening. So I started my classes, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to even take Braille now, because here I am at home. I'm going to add it to my repertoire, which I was so terrified. I thought, oh my gosh, it was so overwhelming to me. And I thought, I'm just going to learn the alphabet, and then I'll be able to label. But of course, I became hooked, and just stuck it through with Jill's help. And it was awesome. It's a great tool. So I'm going along, and Paul convinces me to take the assistive technology certification class. And, since it was remote, it kind of made sense. And I was like, sure. So then my plan was, I'm going to work for Society for the Blind. I'm going to work in the senior program. I'm going to work in core, living skills, technology. I thought, um, this is awesome. This is a good plan. And as I'm going through the program there, I had a bit of a setback. My one right eye that I was using a lot of this unreliable vision, and not really doing all the non-visually stuff on my own at home. I wasn't really using my cane like I should, and um, I ended up not using it to walk to the mailbox and falling and breaking my kneecap. That was a lesson learned. Um, so I started using it a lot more. But in this, I had a setback. I got an infection in my right eye, and it was bad. Everything again went all white, and they were not able to clear it completely. So now I was left with shadows. I have like a little shadow and a little light there in my right eye. But again, I was feeling so empowered, and then I was just crushed again, all over again. It's just like, oh, well, now what? And getting down and everything. And then I realized, what are you doing? You have all the tools you need in your toolbox. You just have to start using them regularly. And everything came together. and I started utilizing all the things that I was being taught, and they work. It was amazing. I'm just like, woo, this is great. Um, so I finished my certification program, and I find out that my honey just got a job in Texas. He had been looking for a job locally, and there was just nothing that fit his qualifications. So we're moving to Texas. And I'm like, okay, great. Uh, I guess I'm not working for Society for the Blind. But at least I have these skills. And I put my house on the market, and I get a phone call. Um, I get a phone call from Shane, one of the AT instructors, just, ended up leaving, and they needed help now. And I was like, yes, yes, yes. He's like, you can work remotely. And when you move to Texas, we'll keep you on. I'm just like, this is amazing. Thank you. So everything worked out, and it's been wonderful. And I just feel just so blessed to be a part of the place that just gave me so much, and to be able to help the students, and give back. Um, and I've been here about 2.5 years now. And, it's been a journey, and it's been incredible. And I learn every day. I'm still learning. I learn as much from the students, I think, sometimes as I teach them. um, and just, I love on my spare time, I just love to stay active. I like to go to blind camp and do all the activities, the horseback riding and kayaking and, zip lining. And I've learned, things that I may have not thought that I could do, losing my sight. Um, and I just, want to tell everybody, don't think that way, because there is so much out there that you could still do. And, you could just do it a little differently. And if you haven't, if there's somebody doing it, or there might be a group that does it, and it'll help set you up, there's a way to do it. So even though, we're losing our sight, don't give up on your dreams. And there's a way to do it. And I also like to tell my students, just never give up. Never give up. You know, um, this is frustrating, losing our sight, but life in general is frustrating, even if you're not losing your sight. And a lot of times, you just need to walk away and then come back and try it again later. Um, Tomorrow's a new day. Like teaching technology, let's just restart the computer. It'll be a whole different thing when we restart it. Um, so never give up, and don't give up your dreams. Um, that's really, you're all in the right place. So that's me in a nutshell. And yes, I can be a bit of a nut. But that being said, um, Randy, you're up.
Hi, my name's
Thank you.
Randy. Um, can you hear me?
Yes.
Terry, thank you. I could really relate to a lot of what you said. I went through a cornea transplant as well. So my name's Randy Owen, and I'm assistive technology instructor. That's my primary purpose at Society for the Blind. I'm involved with some other stuff around the agency. We do a music group, and uh, and I mentioned that because that's kind of part of uh, one of the really cool things about working here. But anyways, I was born with my dad went in the army when I was really young, and we went to West Germany at the time, and nobody really knew what the deal with my eyesight was. But I wore these, I wore the Coke bottle glasses, or I always called them the ballistic glasses. They were like bulletproof glass, and I'd sit in the front of the classroom, and I still couldn't see well enough to read the board. And we came home back to the States in '78. And I went to this place called the Bowling Green Eye Institute. It's in Kentucky. And I underwent some testing, and they stuck these contact lenses with like wires on them and stuff in my eyes. And, the thing I remember is the doctors always coming in and saying, "Hey, do you mind if my colleague comes in and takes a look at this?" So they ended up diagnosing me with it's called rod cone dystrophy. And the best I can tell is it's kind of a form of retinitis pigmentosa. It was explained to me that I don't have uh, all the rods and cones on my retinas like most people do. And over the years, it's deteriorated. They did tell me that by the time I was 20, I probably wouldn't have any functional vision. It turns out that it's been a bit more gradual loss of vision, but there it is. And the reason I bring this up is because I lived in the sighted world, but I wasn't sighted enough, and yet I wasn't blind enough. So I didn't get any blind training going to school. Um, and I just kind of was in between. And so, I always worked in jobs that were either dealing with computers. I worked at a radio station where basically I programmed a computer with an automated station. I did a lot of temp work. I worked in warehouses when I was younger. And then in 1995, my buddy, my next door neighbor, he worked for a contractor, and he says, "Hey, I'm gonna teach you the plumbing trade." And I'm like, "Well, I can't drive." And he goes, "No worries." He goes, "Here's the deal. In a couple of years, I'm going to get my contractor's license, and you're going to go ahead and be my apprentice, and you're going to get your journeyman's license. And when you get your journeyman's license, you're going to come work for me, and we'll hire you a driver." And the deal is, I had to teach them the trade. So, I did that for about 11 years, and the vision progressively gets worse, and it got to where it wasn't safe for me to be on a scissor lift and tripping over string lines and stuff. It's just I was going to hurt somebody or hurt myself. Um, and so at age 36, I ended up in a position where I was unemployed. Um, I've got 4 kids, and I needed a career change. And I remember I went down to the welfare office. I didn't know what else to do. Uh, we always had health insurance and stuff, and I was really worried about my kids. So I go down to the welfare office, and and I explained to them what was going on, and they say, "Okay, we'll come here and go to this job club thing." And it's like, okay. And this job club thing, it's not that I'm any better than anybody else, but they were really focusing on how to teach people how to dress to interview for a job. And I went in there and I said, "Listen, I don't mean to sound ungrateful." I said, "But I've worked since I was 17. I know how to get a job. What I need a complete career change. I can no longer do what I did as a profession." And and I spoke up, and I swallowed some of that pride. And the lady said, "Well, I'm going to refer you over to Department of Rehabilitation." And so I went over there, and I met this lady named Irene Kehoe, and we worked out, kind of a plan. And she started telling me, start thinking about what I wanted to do. And I say this because I see it all the time with folks that come through DOR. But when I came through DOR, I needed a complete career change, and I had no clue of what I could do. I had no idea. And I remember shortly after I got set up with Irene, she got promoted, and then I got another counselor. She's still with the unit, so I'm not going to mention her name. But I remember she sat down and she looked at me. She said, "So, how can I help you?" And I'm like, "I have no clue." And I think I literally told her that. I said, "But here's what I'm doing, and then here's this why I'm doing it." And I said, I started thinking about what can I do, and I have a son who's disabled, and I've learned dealing with him and his support services. I've learned a lot about the regional center and how and Medi-Cal and all this stuff. And I said I'd like to work in social work. That's something I could do down the road, even if I was to lose all my vision. So that's kind of where it started. And in 2006, I got referred over to Society for the Blind. I came in here. Uh, uh, Briefly. It was still at the other building. and when I worked and then when I was in there as a student, um, computers have always been kind of a hobby for me. So I kind of knew maybe more than what the instructor was trying to teach me, this guy named Russ. But it's like I started thinking, it's like, man, it'd be a cool place to work, you know? But I love computers and I love troubleshooting. And but I was under the impression that I had to have a master's degree to work here. And I was nowhere near that, you know. But at the same time, while I'm taking classes here, I started the human services program over at American River College, and I was going to go to get a master's in social work eventually. And but I joined up for the certificate program because the certificate program had my second year, I would go into a 12-month internship, and that was really I saw that as kind of the hope at the end of the tunnel. And so I go through school, I get an internship, I end up going to work as a drug and alcohol counselor at a place called The Effort. And it was before they're called Well Space Health now, and I was there for about 4 years. And I just decided it wasn't for me, you know. And at the end of that, I contacted Department of Rehab, and I had told my counselor, I said, "Listen, I need, I really would like to start teaching. How do I go about teaching technology and teaching computers, to folks with vision loss?" And she had referred me back to Society for the Blind. So this is like 2015 now. And I came back here and I had Diane. Diane was my living skills instructor, and she did some O&M with me. And she let me grab this guy by the face, by his beard, when we were out on a walk one time. If you're one of our students, ask her to tell you the story. Uh, but when I came back into place, I was terrified of that cane. I would see people with the cane, and I just like, oh no, 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 no way. And even when I was a student, when I came back in 2015, I had one of those Revolution fold-up canes, and we all know the reason why. Uh, but I started getting comfortable. Diane really, really showed me that there was more to life than that. Honestly, that I was living probably a very limited life. And there was a couple other people I met, Shane, and then so I came here for a couple months, and I finished, and I started ATI, which is the program that Terri talked about. And Terri, if I get close on time, let me know. Um, so I'm going through that program, and I wasn't working. And at the time, my wife and I had actually separated. So I'm at home with my son Randy. He's the one with all the disabilities, and it was just me and him, and we had an apartment. And I get a call, and Randy's just going to school, and that was my life. I would get him on the bus to go to school, and then I would just, and I was living on disability at the time. And I got a call from Shane, and he says, Paul, we hired Paul, and Paul was going through ATI at the same time. He was just wrapping up when I was about halfway through it, and he said that that Paul and Georgetta had basically recommended they were looking for an instructor, to work here, and so that's kind of where I started. I just like, oh, okay, God, here's your chance, thank you, and the door was open, and now it's my job to walk through, and I was still afraid of that cane, and when I came here, it wasn't a big deal. Everybody else was using it, and I was tired of stepping off of curbs and tripping over the cracks. And I remember my wife had said to me one day, she goes, "I don't know what your deal with the cane is. You're not. It's not like you're 16 trying to get a girlfriend. You better not be, anyways." And so, what that told me is like, why do I have this hang up about it if nobody else does? Nobody else cares, right? And what I got to say about this, I've been here for 8.5 years, and I walk around the building all the time without the cane. And the reason for that is, it's not that I'm embarrassed of it. It's because if I walk into your office, I'll end up leaving the cane there and having to look for it. I did it yesterday. I think I left it in Ozzy's office. But when I walk out that door, I almost feel naked without that cane. You know what I mean? And so hold on, let me look at the questions that I'm kind of making. So that's how I ended up here. And Terry had said something really key earlier that I love about this job is that and I heard somebody say it also, the best way to learn is to teach. And I learn something new every day from either another staff member, I learned something from a student all the time. You know what I mean? Um, so let's see. And the thing about technology, if you're new here with technology, what I'll say is there is a larger level of troubleshooting that you've probably never experienced before. And I always use the analogy that your computer is kind of like it's like O&M. Before you hit a key, you need to know where you're at. So like if you're using JAWS key tab will tell you where focus is. If you're on a Mac, it's VOF3, that'll tell you what's in the voiceover cursor. Always know and orient yourself before you make the next move, just like you would if you're traveling. That's my pro tip for the day. Um, so I've talked about the jobs that I've had. I've worked in radio. I've worked in a number of fields, but this is where I really feel at home, you know. When I'm not working, I my wife and I raised 9 kids. So we have a large family. We have 10 grandchildren now, with another one on the way. We just had a new grandson that was born last Sunday. So a lot of my time when I'm not at work is spent with family. I'm currently trying to wrap up a degree, so I'm taking a history class. And then I try to play music whenever I get a chance to. I go down to that music room. When I was new here, I had a couple students that had lost their vision recently. There was a young man that was in a motorcycle accident, and he was really kind of down, and I remember we had a guitar in my classroom one day, and we got the guitar out, and this guy named Joe Germino starts playing it. And this other guy, Blaine, he just kind of lit up. He was a guitar player, and he had kind of never thought that he would ever play guitar again because of the fretboard, not seeing the fretboard. And because of my background in human services, I could tell that this was something valuable and important to people. And so I had always wanted to record music. And so we started meeting up in my office, and I started learning blind technology on how to record music and how to make it. And I'm a kind of a wannabe musician, but we have a whole room here that's full of equipment and instruments. And so if you're ever on site, you want to check it out. I'm in my office Mondays and Tuesdays. Um, Favorite advice to give to students. This is what I say to new people, and a lot of times I'll say it because I do the tech assessments, is I'll say, welcome home, you're with your people. You know what I mean? Um, and there's nothing that us and the staff are going to ask you or suggest that you do that we haven't done ourselves. We're not going to take you somewhere that we haven't gone ourselves. We're not going to take you there and just leave you. So, yeah, welcome home. And I think that's it, Terry.
Awesome, Randy. Great. I'm so glad you mentioned the music. That is so cool. Um, okay. Well, Sam, you're
Okay.
up.
Okay. I'll start at the where I started yesterday, which is kind of summarizing themes that come out of the stories that you are hearing. And one of the themes is that we're all pretty darn stubborn. And stubborn is not a bad thing because you turn it around and make it positive and it's determined. So that's okay. I say that we as blind people are like farmers, and we all have a pocket full of tools. And so, like a farmer, if you're out in the field and your tool of choice breaks, you're not running off to Home Depot to go buy a new one. You got to pull out one of those other tools and maybe you have to jerry rig it to make it work, but you got tools and you make it work. So, as blind people, we're always figuring out different ways to do things. I always say, why only have one way to do something when you can have five? Uh, this didn't come out so much today, but the word can't. Uh, take it out of your vocabulary. Um, try. No, can't. Uh, and scared, fear. That didn't come out so much today either, although maybe reading between the lines, there was some fear there. I would say there was. I say we all have had fear, but as human beings, we all have fear. So, so be it. So that's kind of my segue now into who am I, where have I been, and I don't know where I'm going, so I can't tell you that one. Um, I was born and raised in Canada. I grew up in Saskatchewan, just north of North Dakota, where it's flat and windy and stinking cold. I lived there until I was about 25. I uh, was born with RP, retinitis pigmentosa, but it wasn't diagnosed until I was 12. So at the age of 4, I had no night vision, uh, and I was already showing some signs of some problems. I was sitting too close to the TV. I was tripping over the dog in the vacuum cleaner. Time carried on. I was the one being yelled at out in left field for sleeping out in left field because I didn't catch the ball because I didn't see the ball, but I didn't know why I didn't see the ball. And my eyes wouldn't adjust to the light changes from the brilliant prairie suns to the dimly lit Catholic church. So I knew something was up, and I always knew something was up. I remember as a little kid, my mom doesn't remember this. She thinks I'm making it up. But I remember walking around the house with my eyes closed and just feeling my way around the house. And I must have been about 6. And I remember my mom asking me, "What are you doing?" And I remember saying, "I'm practicing for when I'm blind." And I remember her chastising me and saying, "Oh, that's nonsense. Stop it now." So fast forward, I'm 12 and I went to the university for a whole day's worth of testing and came out of that and I had a diagnosis and I had relief. My parents were devastated. Watched my dad cry. But at that point, the culture was among eye care professionals and even service organizations for blind people was very different. I hope it's much better now, but they just told my mom, your kid's going to be blind. She's going blind in 5 years. Have a nice day." They didn't tell, my parents didn't know blind wasn't black. They didn't know it would be a gradual process. They just thought within 5 years it'd be black and that's it. I didn't care. I just was happy to have a reason, an explanation. And I decided right then and there that I was getting a guide dog, and I knew at the age of 12, I'm getting a guide dog, don't you worry. Um, so going through high school, I was the geek who couldn't see very well. I wasn't blind. I had very little resources, even though it would have been a good idea to start prepping this kid for that. But the resources available in Canada in the 80s were a lot less than they are here right now. Uh, I had cane training for about an hour in high school, and then I promptly put that cane in my backpack and I lost it. I left it on buses. I left it in restaurants. I never used it. I just carried it around. Uh, I used large print books. I had some books on cassette tape, but I didn't have the listening skills to, to do that. I got through school primarily with a CCTV, which I don't even know if you can buy them anymore. It's a TV monitor connected to a telescope that goes down onto a platform. You put your book on the platform, you slide the platform back and forth, it projects the book up onto the monitor, and you can adjust the size of the print. That would last for about 3 hours, and then I'd get pretty seasick. But that's how I got through. So I was pretty darn determined and stubborn. I don't remember seeing a blackboard after about first grade. So I don't know how I faked my way through, but I pretty much faked my way through. By the time I got to the end of high school, I gave up on chemistry because the teacher had no control over the class. It was a zoo, so you couldn't hear anything And if you couldn't hear what was going on and you couldn't see, it was nothing. I couldn't do it. So I dropped the class. I uh, dropped trig, same problem. Couldn't learn trig strictly orally. Couldn't be done. I took algebra all the way through high school and I got a 49 in grade 12 algebra. But I went to work with the teacher after school multiple days a week for hours. So he knew I tried really hard. So I got my 50. Uh, Went to Brazil after high school for a year as an exchange student and came back to Saskatchewan and went to university. I was an English major, so I didn't have to take any of those math classes anymore. I took Geology 101, Rocks for Jocks and English majors. That was the my science. It had no lab. It was great. I could fake my way through that. But as I'm getting towards the end of my degree, I knew that, yeah, that 4-year English degree and 25 cents was going to get me a cup of coffee, but I couldn't figure out what else it would get me. I was going to need more skills. I worked at McDonald's in high school, and then through university, I worked part-time jobs, but they weren't going to be something to keep me going for the rest of my life. Okay, so in the midst of this, in 1990, at the end of the English degree, I got married. And then, so at the end of my English degree, after getting married, I had this list of things I wanted to do that were options. And I made this whole big fat list, and I started at the top and applied to law school, and they took me, and I never got through the rest of the list. So, okay, I guess I'll go to law school. So I went to law school in Saskatchewan as well while I was married. Never intending to be a lawyer. I just went to law school to get a tool to keep in my back pocket so I could be employable and do something really cool and fun. I was so convinced I wasn't going to be a lawyer that during my first year moot court, which is like a practice appeal court, uh, with one professor as a judge and 2 upper level students as judges. So you do this whole big fat prep thing. Go in there, you're going to go argue this appeal case. It's a pass fail class. All you have to do is be a warm body there. I was so stressed out. The first question they asked me, that's it. I started crying. They never asked me another question after that. I passed. So you just had to be a warm body, but I wasn't going to be a lawyer. No way. I took really useful classes like agriculture law and environmental law and um, uh, uh, legislative drafting. And at my 3rd year, I took evidence because I thought you should be able to at least discuss law and order with some intelligence if you went to law school. So I took that, and I took criminal procedure because it fit in my schedule and nothing else did. In Canada, if you want to be a lawyer, or if you don't want to be a lawyer, the whole process involves a 1-year internship at the end of it where you get paid crap, but you get to do some legal work. It's called articling. And I did my articles in southern British Columbia, so just north of Washington State, in a small city of 80,000 people named Kamloops, set at the confluence of 2 rivers in a valley surrounded by mountains, stinking hot in the summer and pretty moderate in the winter. Sounds like Sacramento, just a little bit smaller. Pretty much that's what it was. And I did my articles at a little boutique firm that did insurance and banking work, but they did insurance and banking work acting for the insurance companies and the banks. So bankruptcies, foreclosures, and nope, we're not paying on that house insurance because you had matches in the house. And we don't have to pay if you have matches in the house. Or we're not paying on that slip and fall because if you weren't so fat when you fell on the ice, you wouldn't have hurt yourself. It was awful. It's just awful. So I got to the end of my 1-year articles, got called to the bar, and left. I was done, and they were done with me. But I, who was not going to be a lawyer, ended up walking into a public defender position right afterwards. So I went from crying at my practice court to spending 18 out of 20 working days a month in court in front of a judge. Um, Not crying. I didn't cry, actually. It was okay. And I did that for 7 years in Kamloops. In the meantime, I had expanded my own blind skills all on my own, very little resources. Uh, I did my own thing with my cane. I went to an NFB convention, got a great long cane, got some training there, and got a guide dog in 1995, guide dog number one. I had been waiting, thinking I wasn't blind enough because I wasn't really blind. I was just a little bit blind and I was kind of a fraud. Well, nope, turns out I was really blind. It was okay. So guide dog number one came in 95 and I'm on guide dog number four right now. Um, my daughter was born in 99. Um, so this is still working as the public defender. Doing the job with a Sharpie. I started with Zoom text, moved to using JAWS, but little training. I met with the guy, the same guy, well, not the same guy, but the same kind of guy you would have met with if your computer was brought to your home and they set it up and set up your email. Same thing. Guy came to my office, set up my computer, put JAWS on it, said, here's a couple of buttons, and he left after 3 hours, and that was it. That was my computer training. But I had the luxury of having a secretary, so I could fake it. It was okay. And she would make everything look pretty. But in 2002, my job came to an end, and they went to private delivery of service to got rid of all the staff lawyers. So from there, I moved up to the Yukon, which is east of Alaska. So I moved to the far north and took a position there as a public defender again, and also did some child protection work, a little bit of family maintenance work. My marriage didn't survive the move to the far north, so I found myself up there as a single parent, working 60 hours a week, and I transitioned over to the dark side and became a federal prosecutor for 4 years. In the midst of all this, I got guide dog number two at San Rafael, and when I went to San Rafael, I met a guy, and we clicked for 2 weeks, and then I went back home to the Yukon, back to my fiercely independent, stubborn life and doing what I did. And that was all fine. But we stayed in touch. And 5 years later, in 2008, I moved with my 8-year-old daughter to Sacramento. So that's how I end up in Sacramento. Married a blind guy who had teenage daughters and went from being that fiercely independent prosecutor to being a 1950s housewife. And blended families are not the Brady Bunch. So it was not without conflict. But we all came through it alive. Nobody got pregnant before their time. Nobody went to jail, and we're still all mostly talking to each other. So it works out okay. While in California, my husband was a vendor through the Business Enterprise Program, which is the program that provides employment for blind people in the government buildings, so like in the Department of Rehab. And he had it in the prisons. So I helped with the family business, with his business. I was a gym rat, and that is an old man Labrador who says it's dinner time. Sorry. Then, oh God. Okay, this is all being recorded. Great. Sorry. I got a yoga teacher training certificate in 2015. So that's kind of when things started to change, because at this point I've had no contact with blind service organizations. I didn't need them. Didn't need those people. I was good all by myself. Leave me alone. I found my way through a series of circumstances teaching yoga at the Society for the Blind. And I found my peeps. And I found I did need people and I did need to belong. When I went to that first NFB convention in 1995 and walked into a hotel with 3,000 blind people, that was my first clue. But it took me a little time to come around to realizing that this feeling could be found in other places too. So while I was teaching yoga at Society for the Blind, I learned about the Department of Rehab and the society and what my options were. And I was a student then at Society for the Blind. I did Braille and I did technology. I was tired of being a hacker. I wanted to learn how to use my computer properly. And I had done grade 1 Braille through Hadley School for the Blind while I was on maternity leave. But that baby started to crawl and that was it, no grade 2. So at the ripe old age of 48 or 49, I learned Braille. So I'm still a student or still a client of DOR when I'm done my training. Still looking to land on my feet and find my purpose and find some employment. And this job lands in my lap. So it was just after COVID hit and there was a position open and I started in July of 2020. I did the ATI training at the same time as working full-time. So Terri was one of my students and she learned along with me as I was learning the ATI method of teaching. She was one of my guinea pigs and she lived to tell about it too. And here I am now. I don't live in Sacramento anymore. My husband and I moved to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, this last June, to be closer to his kids. And so I'm teaching entirely remotely and adapting, to a new place. Terri wanted to know favorite advice to give students. Don't take yourself too seriously. And I used to say that in yoga all the time. It's just yoga. Don't take it so seriously. It's okay if you fall over. You're not that far off the ground. Don't be ashamed of being blind. Blind is not a bad word. It's got 5 letters, not 4. Don't apologize for being blind. Don't say, I'm sorry, I'm blind, blah, 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 blah. The blah, 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 you can say. Don't say the I'm sorry, I'm blind. No explanation required. Don't use the word just in front of legally blind. You're not just legally blind. You are legally blind, if that's the term you choose to use. Whatever term you choose to use, but don't minimize it. Stop trying to use your unreliable eyes when there's another way of doing things. It's okay to let go. Take the next step. There's going to be a bridge. Blind is not black. Don't be afraid. You're not in the dark. And it's not black, even if you have absolutely no vision. I've got nothing left. By 2008, when I moved to the US, there was pretty much nothing left. So when I go outside at 10 o'clock at night and take the dog out, my optic nerve is just going crazy. I swear it's broad daylight out. I know it's not, but I swear it is. If you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. I didn't write that one, but I own that one. Slow down and listen. Far be it from me or any of your instructors to tell you how to be blind, because blindness looks different for everybody. We can only tell you about our experiences, and none of us are perfect. We are not the perfect blind people. We are not super blind people. We are just people who happen to be blind. Oh, it is okay to be fiercely independent and fight for that independence, but don't pursue this independence at the expense of your own happiness. Whether you're blind or not, we all live in community and we all need to depend on each other for something. So
Mhm.
it's okay. And the deal is it's okay to depend on other people so long as they depend on you too. It needs to be a reciprocal relationship.
Absolutely.
That's it. Those are that's
Absolutely.
my that's it.
Sam, thank you so much. That was awesome. I love those tips at the end.
Good.
Um, thank you. Well, Miss Diane?
Hello.
Yep. Hi.
Tools. I love that word. I'm also happy to say I am the B word. Matter of fact, I am a total B.
I'm Queen Bee.
There you go. Um, yes, tools. All of those senses you have are your tools, and please don't diminish the others. They are as important as that eyesight you used to have, and more important now if you pay attention to them. All right. My journey. So I have a little bit different story than a lot of you. Um, I went blind at 18 months. Um, my mom noticed a little dot in my eye in a photograph, and everybody said, it's just faulty film. Don't worry about it. She listened to herself, took me to our pediatrician, and he wouldn't say what he thought, but we were on a plane that night for the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, Rochester. And before the week was over, I had surgery and they had removed my eyes because it was cancer. So I'm young. Kids are super resilient at that age. Um, I don't remember a lot about that, of course. But as I was only minorly older, I do remember, the clinic going back for checkups and things like that. So I handled it fine. My mom did well, and my dad did not. At first, when I guess when after my surgery, my mom tells me that she woke up in the middle of the night in our hotel room and my dad was carrying me out the door. And she said, "Where are you going?" And he was going to go jump in the river and kill us both. Anyway, so I'm still here. So, but then he learned and he did great. But the big thing, as I grew up, the best advice someone gave my parents is not to treat me any different than the other kids. And they took it to heart. And so when we got home, my grandparents were instructed, if you need to cry, don't hold her and cry, go somewhere else. And so I was a really curious, rambunctious kid, and I was allowed to be. If I was going to run into something, they let me run into it. Then I didn't run into that again. So I had a great family, and that is a lead up to where did I get my training? I got my training in life because I didn't have overprotective parents. So I didn't have a need to go and get specialized training because I didn't go blind later in life and I wasn't restricted growing up. I did go to the school for the blind in Nebraska. Back then, a long time ago, the schools for the blind were good. They were good academically. They were good athletically. I was on the track team. I was a cheerleader. We had a wrestling team. I mean, it was a tough school. We had typing for 2 years in fifth and sixth grade to ready us for being able to turn in papers with our sighted peers. I stayed at that school through ninth grade, but until I moved to California. Our English teacher, and of course, this is way before any personal computers, so we were allowed 2 typing mistakes per page, and that included spelling or typos. And if you made your 3rd mistake on the last line of the page, you typed it over. And we didn't get anybody to help us use whiteout and correct anything. So I didn't like it at the time, but it was good. um, and so then I came to California in ninth grade. And I should say, before I came to California, when I was 12 years old. An important thing happened in my life because it's part of my passion. I got my first horse. And I spent that summer probably 12 hours a day with my girlfriend that was my same age on that horse, swimming at the river. Just, it was amazing. Um, couldn't bring him when I came to California, so it was very sad. I came to California when I was 15. I had the choice to come. My mom was moving. My parents had divorced, and I could stay in Nebraska with my dad, or I could come to California with my mom. And I decided, for some reason, I didn't want to. I loved my small town, but I didn't want to be one of those people that was born, grew up, and died within a few block area. I loved travel and I wanted to see more of the world. So I came to California. I started public school at McClatchy here in Sacramento, 10th grade. And McClatchy, and the reason I went there, we were living out in Rancho Cordova, but McClatchy had, I guess back then, and maybe still, the district had different resource rooms for different disability kids, students. And the resource room for the blind kids back then was at McClatchy. So I went to McClatchy across town. And it was a good resource room. When we would get print handouts, we had a Braille transcriptionist in-house. I would bring my handout to her and I would have it before the day was over in Braille. So that enabled me to keep up and do well. In that resource room, we had a full set of Braille encyclopedias and dictionaries for homework and research. We had access to Braille writers and transcriptionists. So it was good support. I had finished a lot of my requirements when I came out here. Our school system was much tougher back there. So all I had to do was fill some units and one semester government class. So I was kind of bored. So I took college prep classes to only discover that in my English class, they were doing what I had done in 7th grade. So I finished early. And during my last semester of high school, I was going to Sierra College. And I got to go out of district because they didn't offer my major down here, which was business agriculture and horse husbandry. So I went to Sierra College. I guess I was the first blind student in the agricultural department up there. And it was good. You know, I had the tools I needed to go to college there. And it was quite the transportation fun. I would board a bus on Coloma Road. And I would transfer at Sunrise Mall to another RT bus. That would take me to Roseville Square in Roseville, and I would get on a Placer minibus, and I would finally get to Sierra College. Anyway, so as you know, as I said, my big passion was horses. So the horse husbandry program involved training your own horse, stable management, practical soils and irrigation, all the things you would need to do that sort of thing. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I was the first blind student in the horse training class. And so then, let's see, you wanted to know, where did I receive that? Okay. So jobs before I came here. One of my first jobs, besides the usual teenage babysitting, I did that at 15. And, you know, I wonder still to this day, we were staying with my mom's girlfriend when we first came to California. And I still wonder to this day why her neighbor, who had 2 small girls, trusted me to babysit for her, but she did. I wish in retrospect I'd had a chance later as an adult to ask her that question, because that's not kind of the norm. So looking back, I'm just pretty thankful that she did. Then I worked for a horseshoer for quite a few years. I didn't shoe, but I was the assistant. And so it was fun. I got to know Sacramento super well. We were everywhere, got to handle lots of horses of all kinds. And then after I finished Sierra College, I moved up close to Sierra College. I rented a place, room from a lady who was on 5 acres where I could bring my horse and my dog. So I did that. And then after I moved there, I get a job at Cal Expo managing the Sacramento Valley Polo Club. So now I'm commuting the other direction from up near Rockland all the way down to Cal Expo. But it worked out. Her boyfriend worked for UPS and he had to drive right past Cal Expo every day. So I had a perfect carpool. And so I was galloping each horse 3 miles a day on the racetrack at Cal Expo. I was keeping the stable clean, feeding, and kind of babysitting the guys when they came out to either to practice or to ride. So that was a great job. I loved it. I've had 2 different quarter horse stallions that I stood for stud, and I hand bred those stallions. I handled the stallions myself. That was really cool. I've had a lot of horses over the years, and I don't currently have one. When I bought my house down here in Sacramento, now that I'm on my own, single income, horses are super expensive and I can't be foolish with my money. But I'm sad to say I have not found a resource that I can, be involved with horses and without owning one, but I need to do that. It's kind of on my bucket list. It's what keeps me happy and what feeds my soul and keeps me sane. So I need to be doing that. Let's see. In 2004, I got a temp job with the senior program at Society. And for about 6 months, I had just come back from getting my therapeutic riding instructor certification from back east and got hired. And then I got hired permanently in January 2005. So I'm in my 18th year at Society, teaching living skills. And so, I've seen a lot of changes. I agree with everybody. I learn from the students every day. And so it's really fun. Some of the skills that I've really gained is how to teach all different kinds of people with all different kinds of learning capabilities. So that's been, I love it. It just builds people's skills. Let's see. I think my best advice is, number one, be curious. I don't care if you can see or not. If you're not curious, you're not constantly pushing yourself to learn. Here's an example. One day in class, one of my clients was looking up something on Amazon. They were shopping for something, and they were kind of saying out loud what they were hearing. And I heard them use a term I wasn't familiar with. And I said, "What does that mean?" They said, "I don't know." And I said, "Well, how long you been shopping on Amazon?" "A long time." "Haven't you ever found out what that means?" "No." So be curious. And if you hear something you're not aware of, discover it, look it up, find out. And the other thing is, I think the best thing, there's lots of good advice out there, but push yourself outside your comfort zone, and that's how you will grow. We all grow when we push through that little bit of nervousness or fear and do it anyway. And yeah, so I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Thank you, Diane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, yeah, let's open it up for questions. So you guys just unmute, ask your questions, and just try to be respectful of each other.
Thank you, everybody. That was awesome.
I have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
I wanted to ask Diana. What's never mind. I was gonna try to think of a way to make a joke, but what was the B? But never mind.
You know what the B is.
Use
Is
your
it
imagination.
Yeah.
bombshell?
That's a few too many letters.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stories from all of you guys though.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi guys.
Hello.
Hey, hey,
I just wanted
Jessica.
hi. I just wanted to say thank you everyone for sharing your stories. Like I just really appreciate like just hearing everyone's story and knowing what everyone has gone through. And it makes hope for all of us.
Hey,
Whether we're
Jessica,
yeah.
I have a question for you right now. When it's my turn to run seminar, would you be my speaker, please?
Of course.
All right, you know what you're going to talk about.
I know.
All right.
And then
Yeah.
my next thing, this one's for Terry. Since you used to play tennis, would you be interested in playing blind tennis?
You know what, Jessica? I just am dying to, and I was never really aware of it until I started hearing like you and Jill doing it, and then this incredible thing that you just did. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So,
I'm doing it for
so
all of us, guys. Just FYI, if any of you guys are interested, just hit up one of the teachers. They'll pass my contact info, and then we can connect. And
yes,
like they said, don't be afraid. I'm not. So if I'm not, you're not. Let's do this together.
oh, I can't wait. Unfortunately, I'm in Texas, so I gotta hook up with someone out here.
I do know someone in Texas, and
Oh,
so I'm the
let me.
first blind woman to play tennis here from the USA, but the first guy is also in Texas.
Wow, that
So
would be
yeah,
awesome.
I will
We'll
pass.
have to
We'll hook up, and I'll pass information.
please, that would be awesome.
Okay, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. So anyone else have any questions for anybody?
I don't know if you guys heard me. This is Lainey. I did want to say thank you so much. It was fun hearing everybody's different takes on their experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for coming.
Yes.
I'm grateful for all you guys that teach. I started coming to society in August, and I mean I have a class with Diane, and she's teaching me how to cook, and um, so far so good. Um, I went from glue tasting spaghetti to peanut butter cookies. So, but no, is it, do you guys as teachers sometimes get frustrated with teaching new students?
You know what, Jim? It's not new students. For me personally, the frustrating thing is if I'm teaching someone and I'm working harder than they are.
Good
If
point.
somebody isn't ready to be here, but for some reason they are, maybe someone made them come or whatever, that's frustrating to me.
I
Okay.
agree completely.
For me, somebody once asked me, what's the hardest part about teaching yoga blind? And it's the answer to that question is the same answer no matter what you're teaching, and it has nothing to do with being blind. The
Right.
hardest part about teaching is trying to teach somebody who won't listen,
Right.
or who doesn't know how to listen.
Doesn't know how to listen or isn't ready to learn.
Mhm.
Sam, stop talking about me.
No.
Can I piggyback off of that really quick?
Uh-huh.
So I take classes at the Gold River Sports Club, and when I first started, my teachers, our instructors said, what can I do to best assist you? And the only thing I can tell them is be very descriptive, because I'm the only blind person in all these classes and I'm following along just fine. And I have no problems in their classes at all.
Jessica, I was a member of the Gold River Racquet Club for 15, 16 years. Don't let them tell you you're the first. They don't let them wimp out. I was a gym junkie there, and they know what they're doing. You hold them accountable and hold them to a high standard. Yeah. You can tell them Sam said so.
Okay.
And I'll sick my dog on them.
We can double tag. I'll sick my dog on them too.
Yep.
Awesome.
Terri, can I mention something?
Absolutely, please.
So, in the spirit of adventure, it hasn't been announced yet, but usually in March or April, there's a local ophthalmologist named Dr. Serdahl, Christian Serdahl, and usually it's probably coming up pretty soon, but there may be an opportunity to go do downhill skiing with a guide, with a proper ski instructor. I know Sam's been on the trip. I've been on it a few times. It's a blast. So you may hear from your instructors in the next month or two. This might be getting announced. If you want to be a part of it, speak up and it was something I always wanted to do and nobody would ever take me because of the eyesight thing. And it was definitely a bucket list item for me.
Awesome. Yes. So nobody else?
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
My name is Rose Juarez. I'm a student. And all your guys' stories really motivation stories. I'm like shocked, like some stories that you guys have is like, wow, like it's hard for me because I'm barely losing my sight and it's really irritating. But I'm like, I hear your guys' story and I'm like, if they did it, I think I can do it, like I know I can do it. And
I'm curious, what was shocking to you?
it's like all your guys' work titles and like everything you guys done to be where you're at. Yeah, it's like, wow. But I'm putting all my mind into everything and hopefully I can get there too.
You can if you want to, absolutely.
Yes.
Well,
You can
thank
do
you,
whatever
guys.
you want.
Guys, a little quick story. I've had 2 clients over 18 years, so that's not very many, who just insisted. They had this word "I can't" in their vocabulary, and it went on and on. And of course, I would do all the positive talk, and we'd, I'd show them they could, and they would do it, do things. And so after 3 months or so, if that continued, after all my efforts, one day I would have enough, and I would say, when I heard "I can't," I'd say, "You're right." And then that would make them mad. Well, you're not supposed to say that. But the answer is, if that's what you believe, you will make it come true. Okay? So that's that. If you believe you can't and you believe it long enough and you want to stick to it, you'll be right.
Oh,
yeah.
Good point, Diane.
Yes, good point.
One day, like I'm learning. You guys know Bob Cole.
Yep.
So he's teaching me the fundamentals of the computer, and like I said, prior to taking his class, I didn't know diddly squat about computers. And in 8 months, I know more about computers now than I've known in my entire life. And, I'm grateful to you guys that are instructors because my goodness, I was trapped in my apartment. I lost my eyesight in 2020 when the pandemic hit, and I was trapped in my apartment for a year. I would not go anywhere for fear of getting pasted by a car. And I, excuse me, I've been a part of society for a while. One of my instructors, her name was Brandy Kubel, and she.
You're now unmuted.
Oh, sorry about that. Did, are you guys hearing that?
Yes.
Oh, gosh, sorry.
That's okay. We can hear you. Go ahead, Jim.
I forgot to hit the mute. Anyway, so like I said, I mean, learning cane mobility, learning living skills, eventually ATI. Man, I tell you, to be perfectly honest with you, when I lost my sight, I knew it was going to happen. I got diagnosed with glaucoma in 92. And it gradually got worse and worse. And I had the surgeries and all that, and nothing worked. And I knew it was going to happen, but it just never really dawned on me until it actually happened. And I thought my life was over. I was at a point where I was going to go walk out in the middle of traffic and just end it. And then I found out about DOR and society, and I'm telling you, if anybody has no hope, get plugged into society because it's a game changer. It was, it is for me, and it gives me hope. And now I can just keep going forward, never quit, never give up. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And even I did construction for years, and I was thinking, how could I apply that? Let's say maybe someday I'm teaching at society, I don't know, an ATI instructor, I don't know, whatever the case may be. I could teach people how to do certain aspects of construction blind because I work here at my house, and like if something needs to be fixed, I can fix it. And people think, well, I can't see, so I can't do anything. Well, I see with my hands. So, and there's a lot of great technology that can assist you with measuring and whatnot. And my iPhone is a great measuring tape. And I wouldn't mind, if there was ever a time where, somebody had like a hole in the wall, say, well, that's easy to patch, or oh, you need a plumbing issue fixed. Well, we can do that, so
Jim, there's a whole bunch of blind woodworkers in this country you ought to hook up with.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was gonna say that too. Yep.
I thought
Well,
being a cookie shop.
does anybody else have any questions for us? Because unfortunately, some of us have to go back to work. So
sorry for blabbing on. I had too much coffee.
Don't be silly. Thank you for sharing. I'm so glad that you came.
Everyone.
So,
Terri, should we mention, just since we have quite a few people here, that Friday is our billing day, so no classes.
Oh, yes. Good luck. Yes.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Rochelle.
Hi, Rochelle.
I am a student. I just want to say thank you, everyone, to sharing the story. And then sometime I feel by myself in that journey, but today to hear a lot of story, but I don't think I feel by myself because I think I'm the only one who have a peace sometime. But thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks for coming, Rochelle. I keep telling you, you need to take some in-person classes. Get part of the community.
Yep.
Okay, everybody. Well, thank you so much for coming. And thank you for telling your stories. My coworkers, thank you so much. And everybody just have a beautiful day. And remember, just don't give up. Don't give up.